The Canadian Armed Forces Skyhawks Canada parachute team is returning to the skies over Quinte West this week. Airdrop system technician Master Corporal Trevor Neelin joins us today to tell us more about his experience as a Skyhawk and what spectators can expect as they look to the sky Tuesday, that's tomorrow, and Wednesday. Thanks for joining us here today at Starboard Communications, Trevor.
Hey, thank you for having me.
You've got some pretty exciting news to share with us today. But before we get started, I have to admit, I'm a fangirl. I'm a big fan, just like many in the Quinte region, of your team and your work. So before we get started, I'm dying to know, how did you become a Skyhawk?
So I started in the military 17 years ago as an infantry reservist. And after spending a lot of time in the reserve, I decided I wanted to make it a full-time career. I transferred into the regular force as a supply technician with the intent of becoming a parachute rigger. After training, I was picked up to become a rigger. And from there, as a rigger, we have to be also jumpers. So riggers are responsible for packing and maintaining parachute systems within the Canadian Armed Forces. Once I became a rigger, I was qualified on round parachuting and then free fall parachuting within the military. And there are two positions on the Skyhawks for parachute riggers. So during the season, we're responsible for making sure that the reserve parachutes are packed within their pack cycles. We're also responsible for any of the maintenance that may come up during the season. Canopies get ripped and torn and they need to be fixed. Lines need to be changed. Guys rip their pants, we need to put a patch on their pants, all that kind of stuff. So we're responsible for that. So when the time came up, there was an opening position and I got posted into the team just a little over 3 years ago as one of the team riggers.
That's awesome. See, those are things that you don't think of. Safety is huge with what you guys do.
Yeah, so my job primarily on the Skyhawks as a demonstrator, but as well as I'm responsible for making sure that those reserves are packed on time within their specifications, as well as the work that needs to be done to make sure that all of our parachutes are serviceable for the guys that are jumping them.
Wow. Performing and preparing a team for death-defying stunts by jumping out of an airplane at 10,000 feet. That's not your average day job. Was this something you always wanted to do?
So I always wanted to parachute. I'd always tried to get a spot on one of the basic para courses that are running. So if you think basic para, you would think round parachute. You think in World War II, guys jumping into Normandy or what have you. That's the kind of parachuting then that would be. I always wanted to try it. It's something that everybody wants to conquer a fear or challenge themselves, and that was something that I felt would be a challenge and something that I could accomplish. So with this trade, with becoming a rigger, that's kind of step one, is being a jumper. So when I got selected to be a rigger, I was on the basic para, and that was the first time I jumped, and that was pretty incredible. And so yeah, it was something I always wanted to try, and I was just lucky enough to be able to be afforded the opportunity.
Not everyone can say that they have skydived before. Can you describe that rush for us?
Yeah, so my favorite part of free fall would be the first moment you step off the plane. And doesn't matter what plane that we're jumping from, or plane, helicopter, whatever it may be, that initial step when you're all of a sudden there's nothing below you except you've got 12,000 feet to the ground, and it hits you, and that rush of wind hits you, and it feels like you're swimming in a really loud pool because you're just out there by yourself.
What goes through your mind before you're about to take that leap?
First, it's usually I'm one of the jump masters, so it's my responsibility as well on the aircraft to make sure that the aircraft's in the correct position over the ground for the jumpers to go in the air. So my first thought is looking out the back of the plane or the side of the plane, wherever we are, and saying, okay, are we in the right spot? Are we ready to go? And then it's all the way up on the plane. We're doing our mental rehearsals, thinking about what we're going to be doing for that jump. And then usually once I'm ready to step off, it's okay, it's go time. Let's do this.
Do you have any rituals, things that you make sure that you do before you jump?
Yeah, every jump starts on the ground. So we'll, depending on what we're doing for that jump, if I'm jumping for a show, so I'll be with my team in our formation, and we'll go through what we're going to do. We'll say, hey, this is how we're going to land. This is where we're going to be. This is our plan. And then we'll also think about contingencies. If something goes wrong, what are we going to do and how to stay safe? But yeah, on the way up, I'll sit there and I'll think about, okay, what am I going to do? And then I'll, before we go, I'll do a personal gear check. So I'll just check, make sure that all my stuff's ready to go. And that gives me that lets myself know that I'm ready to do this.
Tomorrow, you and your team will be putting on a show in Trenton at the National Air Force Museum.
Yep.
Tell us about it.
So we're going to do our standard show routine. So it'll be 3 passes, split up into, so the show will be split up into 3 passes of the aircraft. We have different formations. So the first formation that you'll see would be the Canadian T with our large flag. So it's a group of 3 jumpers that are holding themselves together. And we have large flags that are about 450 square feet that will deploy, and they'll take them in a nice pattern with smoke that'll come out of one of the guys' feet to kind of give a nice show in the air, and then they'll land. A lot of times we do that in conjunction with the national anthem. On the second pass, there is the parabatics and the 3-stack drags. The parabatics is literally parachute acrobatics. There's 2 guys that are using a leg lock. So they're flying their parachutes side by side, holding on with their legs, and they'll do flips and spins and what we call a downplane, where they just come flying straight at the ground at a really high rate of speed, and then they'll land. They'll break apart and land really close to the ground. It's quite impressive. The next formation is a formation that I'm a part of, the 3-stack drag. And 3 people, again, we'll stack our canopies one on top of each other. We'll hook on our feet into the other person's lines, and then when we're at the right spot at the right height, I give the signal, we deploy smoke, and then the jumper on the bottom will actually flip upside down, and then we'll start to drag with one canopy upside down. Kind of looks like an anchor, actually. On the third pass, we have the candy cane, which is usually the crowd favorite. There's a guy, he's got a long cable that has different colors, smoke grenades on it, and so he'll spin really fast in the air, and he'll make like a helix in the air with smoke, and it looks really sharp. And then the final formation will be the try-by-side, and it'll be 3 canopies again that'll stack together, leg locks and feet, and then when they're ready, they'll fan out, and then they'll come down to the ground, and their canopies will be 3 in a circle. Kind of looks like the biohazard symbol almost, and they'll come screaming at the ground at a really high rate of speed, and then they'll break apart at the last second and land.
Wow. You can see the excitement in your eyes when you talk about just the stunts and everything that you can do. You can see your passion and that you really, really love what you do. What's your favorite part of it all?
Honestly, my favorite part, other than the jumping is awesome, but my favorite part is, as a parachute rigger, is being presented with a problem that needs to be fixed. So something's broken, or we need to modify a piece of equipment to fit somebody a little bit better, or we need to develop a new piece of gear for a show. And so being presented with that problem, and then just myself and another individual being like, okay, these are the materials that we have. How can we make this work? How can we create something or fix something? So I really enjoy that more than anything.
That's awesome. So you've been with the Skyhawks for 2 years. You've had 850 jumps.
Around there, yeah.
Does it still feel like the first time?
No. The first time was a very, very unique experience. The first time of any of the different disciplines of jumping is unique. So it's never like the first time, but the rush and the anticipation never goes away.
And lots of anticipation ahead of tomorrow. I myself have seen many of your shows, and many here in the Quinte region. Look forward to seeing you guys here again. Your home base, CFB Trenton. You'll be jumping at 1 o'clock tomorrow over at the National Air Force Museum. Have a good jump.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us, Trevor.
Thanks for having us.